Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's presentation session on SaaS fundamentals. So, thanks everyone for joining us today. But let me start by asking just a basically a rhetorical question, right? Um, I'm sure many of you have been in situations where you see the need for something, right? You see that there is a particular challenge or something that is happening around business areas that you work on, or perhaps day-to-day areas that you are doing for fun, like sports or daycare, whatever, right? Whatever the situation is. But you imagine that based on that situation, that there could be an opportunity for providing or creating some kind of solution that can help solve that need, right? So that moment, that spark of that idea to be able to say, oh, okay, there is an opportunity to build something here, that's where innovation starts. So welcome, guys, to this presentation. My name is Oscar Garcia, and today we are talking about SaaS fundamental, how to build, how to go about building. What is SaaS, first of all, and how to go about thinking, planning, and building a SaaS solution. Let me first start by introducing myself. So I am Oscar Garcia. My expertise are around application architecture using cloud, web, and AI technologies. I'm passionate about building solutions and sharing what I learn. I'm also a book author. I have a book, I published a book called Data Engineering Process Fundamentals, and it covers the fundamental process of a data engineering project using cloud technologies. Um, you can actually scan that QR code, and that takes you to a portal where you see links for GitHub projects and other things that I work on as we do more presentations on data engineering this summer and AI. You are invited to keep an eye on the community and follow us for those presentations. But let's start with the concept, right? So, what is this SaaS? What does it mean, right? It's really a basically SaaS stands for software as a service, right? It is at its core, it's just basically a cloud based software delivery model. And basically, users can use it based on monthly or yearly fee. This is the big difference, right? Because usually in traditional software development, we actually create a concept of licenses and we sell the product, right? And then we continue to sell new editions and upgrades and so on, right? But with the SaaS solution, we basically has features like cloud hosted, reduce costs because is you don't have to invest on the delivery of your software, right? So everything is accessible via cloud. You can get a monthly or yearly commitment from consumers, and it's a low risk investment for consumers. They don't have to buy a license like an accounting software or something like that, where they need to be investing a lot of money for that license that may only work for 1 year. And because of the nature of the software is a cloud-based hosted solution, you can keep updating it, right? So that's seamless to the users. The users will get the latest version every time you publish a new update. The key takeaway here is that it's very SaaS is an offer that is very convenient to consumers, it's cost effective, and it's a good way to for you to create an idea and publish that to consumers or users. But how do you plan for it? What is the approach to be able to take that idea, that spark, and be able to say, okay, I need to convert this to a SaaS solution, right? So basically, you start with that idea to solve some kind of problem, right? And you need to start thinking about how to deliver this idea in a way that is not going to cost you a lot of money. So some of the concepts here are basically problem identification. So that's the initial part, right? So you need to identify what is it that you're trying to solve, right? And basically make sure that is something that is viable to build, and it's useful for consumers, right? Because we all have great ideas. We all think of, hey, this is the greatest thing ever, but it may not be something that consumers want, or it may not be useful. It may be useful for one or two people, but not for a big community. So the idea here is to be able to do market research, right? So you need to understand the market for that idea, and see what is the demand. Are there any competitors out there? Are people doing this? And even if people are doing this already, it may be a different approach, right? It may be different, completely different than what you're trying to do. It may be in the same area, but maybe it's different. The way they deliver the solution, or the functionality may be different. So think about that. So think about doing your market research to be able to validate what you're trying to do, and then define a business model, right? Define how you're gonna sell this. What is the price? Are you defining subscription tiers? Are you coming out with like basic, plus, super tier, in which basically basic only means maybe it's free, right? Basic tier could be even free to attract customers, and the plus and premiums are paid subscriptions and they have more features, right? So that's important to kind of evaluate. But usually when you build a SaaS, you start with a basic model because you want to build something that can get you to market really fast. And then you got to do some financial planning, right? So you have to create a budget for development, for the technology that's going to be used, for marketing and support costs. These are key. This is very important, right? Marketing, not because it's not just the technology that we need to think about, right? We need to think about, how are we going to market this? How are we going to put this out there so consumers can find it, can see what it is that they can take advantage of, right? We need to create a technology budget. So we need to think about, this is when it starts getting very interesting for people that have background in software development, software engineering, because you need to start thinking about the cost of the technology stack that you're going to be using, or if you're going to be using third-party services, or maybe a turnkey solution altogether, with a low-cost approach. Basically, there are platforms out there. Let's say you're good at building React mobile, React Native for mobile solutions, or React for web app, or Angular, or an Android app that you want to develop. But because we have to develop that, right? We have to code it, we have to test it, we have to deploy it. It sometimes takes longer, more effort, more costs, even if it is just you, but it takes more time. But maybe your idea doesn't need to be built from scratch like that, and maybe you can sign up for a low code solution, or no code platform that enables you to build this. And no code, basically what implies is you have so many platforms out there where you can actually go and build a mobile app. And it's basic, right? Basic screens and basic application, like a data entry type approach. Doesn't give you a lot of the features that you want to have, perhaps, but it gets you going, it gets you started. So those are the kinds of evaluations that we most keep in mind when we think about doing something, when we're planning about this SaaS solution, right? Don't go quickly, just I'm going to build it in React. Think about, perhaps you don't need to, as an example, you don't need to build it from scratch, because maybe your SaaS solution is very small and there are no code solutions for it. So think about those things, right? A marketing and support costs. This is very important. Marketing is key here. If you don't invest in marketing, how are people going to find your solution? So marketing is the way to be able to tell the world, hey, I got the greatest SaaS solution out there. um, this is what it can do, and this is how you're going to have to market that application. And of course, support costs, because what's going to happen here as you build your SaaS solution, right? You're going to have feedback. You're going to have feedback from users. You're going to get a feedback that's going to tell you, hey, this is working, this is not working, and you have to improve it. If we do not do that, then definitely people are not going to adopt the SaaS solution, and they're going to move on to something, or to a different solution that's provided by someone else. But of course, so now you have the plan. You understand what you got to do, the areas that you need to worry about. But now it's time for us to focus on the technical approach and what we call the MVP, the minimum viable product. So what is that, right? The foundation for SaaS is to think of an MVP, and not just SaaS, but in general, every software development product out there starts with an MVP. And what that really means is that even though your idea and your let's think of it this way, your idea may have 10 different features, right? So out of those 10 features, we definitely need to go and understand what are core features, right? What are things that if without those things, this application will not work. And of course, and a core feature is this is the eye candy. This is what people want. This is the core functionality of my app, my SaaS solution, that is vital for me to have. Otherwise, it's useless, right? For example, logging is a core feature, but it's not a functional feature as a business, right? And you need to identify that too. Otherwise, then the application does nothing for the end user. So start thinking about what is an MVP core feature and start moving things around your Kanban board. So the Kanban board there is to visualize that you may have a backlog of a lot of things, but then we just really want to pick the things that are core features for our MVP to reduce the scope of work, right? And be able to build something quick, because the quicker you build it and you send it to for feedback from a user group, that you're gonna find a user group to say, hey, maybe friends and family, hey, look, I'm building this out. What do you think? Right? You get that feedback. It's gonna be great for your application, right? So you iterate with this feedback. You send it to friends, family, and you say, look, this is the purpose of this app. What do you think? What do you think about the enrollment? Is it easy? Usability, is it okay? Um, is it appealing to consumers? And get that feedback, right? And iterate with it. So at this point, you're gonna get feedback, and that feedback will become maybe part of that core feature that you need to have for an MVP, because it could be so vital. Everybody may be saying, look, without this doesn't work. I have to do 5 clicks to do this, and it'll be great if I could just do it in one or two. And that could be such a usability core feature that you must have. So it's important to iterate with the feedback of consumers. Going back to the technology stack, this is really a technology product. Therefore, we need to think about the development tools or platforms that meet your project need, right? So if it is a no-brainer, I got to do it on React or Angular, .NET, then I'll do that. Or otherwise, or can I do this with no code, right? Can I get a no code platform that enables me to do what I need to do? We need to evaluate that and see. For example, you have Power Platform in the Microsoft 365 world. That is a low code, no code solution, but there are tons of others out there. So depending on what you want to do, we need to do the research. There's so many of them now with AI building out mobile apps that it is actually worth investing time on doing that research and understanding what's out there. And of course, if you, let's say you don't do a cloud hosted no code platform, and because they do take care of the cloud hosting for you, but let's say you want to build something, you want to code it, then you need to choose your provider, right? Do I go with Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud, AWS? You need to sort of understand what they offer for you that's useful, right? So for example, if you're in the Google Cloud, maybe you want to use Firebase as your backend, right? So it makes sense to be in Google Cloud and maybe host your application with Firebase, and so on, right? Microsoft Azure and so on, in the hosting plan. So what's important here is to understand that you're going to start small, right? And you're probably not going to buy a lot of resources from the get-go, but definitely you want to be able to scale, right? If you are one of those gifted ones and you come up with a great idea, then you probably need to scale. So you want to be able to not be boxed in, and be able to know that if you select a no code platform, that it can scale well for you, even if you select Microsoft Azure, that your plans can scale for you, um, and be available to your consumers. So that's key. So the MVP is important, very important. All right, so we got the plan. We understand our MVP. We start coding, setting up our solution. Um, but there is a concept of operations that we need to worry about, right? And what that really, to simplify, what it means is that once I have my product, whether it's a no code platform or I have to do all the code myself, I need to be able to manage the operations of this product. I need to be able to build it, right? I need to be able to schedule updates and build this and deploy this. In addition to that, I need to be able to I'll be able to add the security. What kind of security am I going to use, right? Is my security simply log in with your Google account, your Microsoft account? Those are operational aspects that we need to worry about. Or am I creating my own credentials, right? My own security platform. For example, let's say you provision your own accounts. Of course, the more you do, the more difficult this will be, right? So for security, often is the case. You probably want to allow third-party federated security environments like Google and Microsoft to be able to register and log in with their accounts, and that way you minimize that risk for your solution. So those are things that are important to know. So remember, to start with, you're trying to do a good product, but you're trying not to build everything yourself. Otherwise, you never get going. And I have a story to tell you guys about Magic Leap. I used to work for Magic Leap, and we were guilty of doing too much and taking too long to be able to deploy what we were building. Data management, of course, that's another big concern about data storage, backups. Maybe you have a turnkey solution and they manage all that for you. That's great. That's great. Just make sure that you're able to access that data. If you need to migrate to somewhere else, that you can take the data with you and take it, right? So make sure those things exist. But the point here is that you need to have a checklist of operational responsibilities and be able to understand whatever platform you're using. You're going to have support for that, and of course, ability to scale that we talked about. That's important, right? So just remember, if you're using a third-party service, just make sure that they provide this kind of functionalities and support for your application. So just keep that in mind. All right. So now you know, right? You know how to build it. You know how to deploy this. Okay. So what's next? What do we do, right? How do we get this SaaS solution out there to the market so people can see it, right? So beyond the coding and the building, there is the strategy for marketing your idea, right? So you need to be able to build, in addition to your product, mobile product or your website, um, a sort of a marketing and product side, right? So the marketing and product side, basically, what they're gonna do is they're gonna help you uh, announce your product. They're gonna help you share with people what you can do, right? So you can actually create a few pages with SEO enhancements or capabilities for people to be able to do Google search and find your site, right? And in addition to that, you may want to be able to have things like, hey, contact me or sign up, and have like a CRM connected to it to track your leads. And by the way, a lot of things I'm talking about is just a very general and solid foundation for building SaaS, but they're not required for your initial deployment, for your initial release. So, for example, CRM. It's not required for you to have a CRM. And for those of you that may not know, that's the customer relationship management software that's basically manages your leads and opportunities and so on. But it's a good idea to get into that that business sense of understanding that if people are landing on my site, I mean, these are good leads, right? These are good leads for you to be able to reach out back to them and grow your software, right? So it's something that may not be for the first release or second or third, but eventually it becomes part of your SaaS solution. right? And the product side basically is where you actually have allow them to sign up for it, to support the application. So a lot of the things that's going to happen here once you have a SaaS solution is that people are going to say, I have a problem signing up, or I have a problem with this feature, or so on. And you're going to get a lot of feedback on how do I do this, right? And a product site is what's going to enable them to be able to say, look at this knowledge base, or contact our support team, or send us an email here, right? So this marketing side and product side could be one, right? Just different pages, or could be different depending on your strategy of how you want to do this. But the point is that you have to have those. Having a product support site is really important once you deploy something. And you may say, wait, well, but you know what? I could add the support on my product, right? I could have a SaaS solution with the support built in. Yes, the answer is you could do that. However, that is not probably a core feature, right? So if you remember going back to the MVP, adding support capabilities to an application, of course, it requires more coding, more effort, additional pages and buttons and events and so on, right? So it increases your scope. It increases your scope of work. But what you could do is just hire, just get a platform that does support, right? There's so many out there that enables you to do branding of your product, your logos and your theme and all of that. And they enable you to have like support tickets, to create support tickets and communications and knowledge base and all that. So it's a good idea to separate it from the core product, because you don't want the core product to be able to be overwhelmed with support capabilities. Maybe what you could do is a link, right? A link, a button that says for support, click here, and you click on the support, and you send them to the support site. Or you could also add a bot, right? A chat bot that enables you to on within your app to talk to the users. But of course, the more you do, the more delays in deploying your SaaS solution. So those evaluations are always important to make. But of course, using AI for other things is also very good. I mean, your SaaS solution could be AI based, right? It could be taking on some way of just basically doing, for example, one of the SaaS solutions I worked on is to actually do medical software, but instead of having people click on pages, we had a digital human talking to the patients, right? And interviewing patients and just talking to them, and be able for the patients to be able to say, yes, I did this, or I had that in my medical records and so on, which enables patients to be more active about interacting with the application and giving you feedback. All right. So cloud hosting, of course, again, I continue to drive this point, which is important to be able to make a good determination of what is the right cloud hosting for you in the marketplace. So this is important here, the marketplace. So I'm sure all of us have mobile apps, a mobile phone, right? And we can go to the Play Store and download apps for our phone. That's a marketplace. So if your SaaS solution, for example, is a mobile app, you'll probably be deploying it in the Play Store, right? And it's a great way for people. This could actually be your sole marketing channel, right? The marketplace will be the only marketing channel that you need, and you put it there. But but you're still gonna need the support, right? You're still gonna need the support side for the feedbacks. Otherwise, you're not gonna grow. But the marketplace, like Play Store, and if you're building, for example, cloud SaaS solutions, you have things like the Azure Marketplace, AWS Marketplace. So all these platforms have marketplace. Even CRMs, right? Even CRMs like there's Soho, there is Salesforce. All these platforms have marketplace where you can actually build a SaaS solution that integrates, for example, into Salesforce and does something unique that you think is great that Salesforce is missing. And as a Salesforce consumer, what I do is as I search for a solution that Salesforce will not provide, your app will probably show up and say, hey, but this plugin can do that for you. So marketplace is great. it's a great way, a great channel to be able to promote your product. All right. Yes, yes. You are going to have access to the presentation. Every one of these presentations that I have, if it involves code or anything like that, definitely I'll share it. I'll send the recording as well. This is being recorded, so you'll get that. Okay. So just track the emails from the community, the Google chapter, and you'll get that communication. But thank you. Hello, everyone. All right, so now we have an idea, right? We're getting closer now. We now have our channel markets, our market channels, sorry. And we understand now we're selling this. We're getting a few leads, right? We're getting some people saying, contacting you and saying, hey, I want to sign up for this. I want to try it, right? And then you're getting some usability. You're getting some users signing up. So this is great. You are really now taking off. But now there is a key important component of all of this, right? Which is how do you last? How do you make this application last? And what I mean by that is how do we make it in such a way that 2-3 years from now, 5 years from now, your application is still live and growing in the number of users, right? So that's where we have to be very mindful of retention and support. So how do we do this, right? So once your application is running up and running, you're gonna have tons of feedback. People are gonna be. It's just the nature of the beast, right? We're gonna be able to get feedback from users that don't know how to do certain things, or they're coming across certain things, or they want things, which is the super plus, right? Once you start having users telling you, "Hey, I would love it if this could do this," then that is a great opportunity for new features to be added to your product. And going back to the MVP concept, when you started with 10 ideas, right? 10, I'm sorry, you started with an idea with 10 core features that you filter down to maybe just 4, right? And now you're getting feedback from users, and these users are telling you, hey, it will be great if you do this. You can look back at the initial core features, and some of those may be completely irrelevant at this point, because now you're taking direction from the consumers, from the that are actually guiding you towards what's useful, not what you thought originally, because originally, I thought, hey, this will be great. And this is just another feedback. When I started my career on software development, one of the things we did a lot was to actually focus a lot on building features that they were never going to be used, right? In frameworks and features and this and that. And that's when Agile started coming in. Agile started coming in with the sense of, hey, we just got to be more agile about this and not work too much on core features no one's using, even though it was over the original requirement. We got to, as we get feedback, let's move forward and change the direction. And that's where the whole concept of agile was, because before it was so rigid. We had requirements, and every single requirement was delivered, and we were not changing direction. And that was a big problem. And agile actually gave us a whole different perspective to say, look, that was back then. We thought it was important back then, but not anymore. So same here. So you're gonna get that feedback for your SaaS solution. You're gonna look at your core features and say, no, yeah, that was useless. I see what people are talking about, and now I see a better direction, right? So, but how do you get this feedback, right? So definitely you got to get channels for feedback, right? So some kind of support page where people can create support tickets. More importantly, you wanna track the insights of the app, right? So what does that mean? Track the insights, right? So what that means really is when you're building applications, you can actually track the telemetry of the application. The telemetry is really just all those vital data points that are coming through an app as a user navigates the app. So, for example, when a user lands on your website, there is telemetry data saying a particular user from California landed on your on, right? And Google Analytics, for example, is a good example of this, right? It tracks telemetry. If they click a button, if they load a second page, or they quit right there, they leave the site, all that telemetry is captured. And when you telemetry data, then you'll see, user landed, click on the OK button, loaded it, and then left, right? And you see this bit user, this is what we call user behavior, right? We're seeing that the users are, for the most part, as they land, they are looking at certain elements of the app. They are using and clicking on certain components, or they never click on a particular button, right? You'll see through telemetry that maybe there's a button here or a tab no one's using, or no one can find, because it's buried down 3 clicks, right, in a menu, submenu, and so on. So the telemetry gives you this insights for you to be able to understand user behavior and understand what's failing. And this is key. This is fundamental for the growth of your application. So it's very important to wire the insights. And you have a lot of frameworks out there for app insights that you can wire your application. It will capture telemetry just like Dynamics and Google. That is important for you to be able to look at this feedback, create a task like GitHub tasks for those things, be able to go into the process of analyzing the data and determining if this is a new feature, should we add this, and so on. So in addition to the user feedback, you get feedback from the app, from the telemetry data. And as you get this feedback and you go into this review process, right, you go into the next iteration of the application. You start coding, updating, and publishing updates, right? So you're improving the application, you're adding new features, and you're building a community around it by getting the feedback. So that's important too. So it's a great point here. If you notice, a lot of these platforms have support sites, they have community sites, knowledge base, and a lot of the community sites, basically what they do is they enable you for people to share uh, what they have seen, right? So, and this is great because instead of you just kind of building out the feedback and the knowledge base and the support for people, is the consumers also helping each other. So building a community is great. So you can build a community around the SaaS and be able to let other people help you, and you be able to see what's going on and learn from what they are doing as well. Again, this is not something you want to do from the start. This is something that organically develops into your SaaS, right? So here we're giving a picture of the SaaS from a concept, from an idea, into how you continue to grow it in a long-term plan, right? So that is important for the long-term plan of your solution. All right. So of course, support. Provide support is key. If people don't feel like you're responding to them via chat, email, YouTube channels, what have you, right? Slack channels, perhaps, if you want to use Slack, that's a great tool for you to be able to build support channels. People are not going to keep using the app, and they're just going to abandon your app, and your app is not going to have a long-term success. That's for sure, 100%. So be proactive about supporting them, just reaching out and say, look, we're going to look into it. We don't have the answer right now. Don't be like a lot of companies that I can recall saying, I'm working on new features only. I don't care about the bugs or problems that the people are reporting, which is a bad concept, because that gives you a negative review, and people are not going to use your application. So it's important to take a look at the feedback from customers, creating a knowledge base, use help desk software or applications like Slack, like I mentioned before, to be able to get this and continue to support your user base. So, okay, so let's recap. So how do we get started, right? So how do we get started on this journey? It's important to understand the fundamental concepts of this, right? The first thing is find a viable real use case, right? It's an idea that you think is going to solve a particular problem, but don't think that the idea is just something that you think is cool, right? Just validate it, do a little bit of research, right? Do some kind of talk to friends and family and pitch the idea and kind of think, hey, you think this is something useful, right? And be mindful if it's feasible and cost effective. Of course, we all want to build something that's going to be the next TikTok or something like that, right? Like I see many of this. People are saying you can use AI to build TikTok in 5 minutes or something like that, right? Which is really not realistic, right? You can build a concept, but not really a platform like that. But anyway, so just be mindful of that. And what if it is cost effective? How much are you willing to invest? And usually, if you invest a lot of money and you take a long time to build it, it's not a good approach for this type of stuff. And to get your feet wet, also you can actually start with something. It doesn't have to build an app. It could be a service. It could be maybe a plugin for Salesforce, for a CRM platform, for a cloud-based platform like Google Cloud or Azure. It could be something. Just get that process going and established within your mind, right? And become process oriented. Scope the MVP and define the technical approach. Determine what's really viable, what's the minimum viable product, what is the technology you're going to be using. Let's not get hung up on why am I gonna get a platform if I can code it, right? And understand that it's beyond code. This is not about coding or not. This is about a business. How do you get that faster with less effort, right? It's not about I'm gonna take 3 months and code it when I can actually a platform and I can build it in 3 weeks. And I'm not exaggerating, right? It really depends on what you're trying to do. There are some platforms out there that, for example, if you want to build a Angular React app with 3-4 pages, add security to it, error handling, telemetry, and all that. Yeah, it will probably take you 2 to 3 months, depending on the features you're adding. But platforms already have security built in. All you got to do is define models, and they create all the screens for it. They create all the menus, all the navigations, everything, the telemetry built in, the error handling built in. So let's be mindful of what those capabilities, because is if it's out there and it meets your MVP, why not, right? Think about operations, right? Establish good operational practices, security, and be able to understand when to scale, right? Have a strong market presence. This is important. Let's not disregard this completely. This is very key, fundamental aspect of getting your application in front of users. Focus on continuous retention and support. Retention and support is key, right? Keep your users interested. Keep sending updates. Keep sending feedback on when they reach out to you and contact you. So this is very, very good and important. And embrace iteration for continuous growth, meaning iterate through those feedbacks, keep updating the application. Look, at the beginning, you may start with the basic core features, right? And maybe it's free. You give it for free for 2 weeks just to hook the consumer, the users. And then you sell it. Let's say you sell it for $30 a month. This is just a low end app, right? But then you start adding more features. Like, for example, you could be adding AI. You could be adding events and alerts and other features, right? And then you made that the plus. And now the plus is $70 a month, as an example. And then you start really pumping up the AI on it and a lot more features, and allowing people to just basically talk to the app and enhance it in such a way that you make it a premium, right? The premium uh, um, of your application, and people will buy into it, and it's 150, 200, $300, whatever that the application is. So it's important to kind of understand that you don't have to start with a premium, because people don't even know your application yet. So you can start with the basic tier and grow it as you go, right? And give for free. Sometimes you're gonna have to start giving away something like a free period of a month or so for users to actually learn and understand your application. The takeaway here actually is follow fundamentals, concepts and steps, and think about the application in such a way that it's easy to get there if I don't do too much, basically, right? Get a good idea, find out how to if there is a market for it, where you're gonna, what technologies you're gonna use, deploy it and market it, and get a flow for it. And listen, it's really, it takes time. Everything takes time, but it's good to get that practice if you're really interested in building SaaS solution for yourself, so you can actually work for yourself and not someone else. All right, so we covered a lot today, guys. Thank you. Any questions? I'll look at the chat now. By the way, this is my book. You can scan that QR code. This is about data engineering process fundamentals. I'll be setting up a series of about 6 to 8 presentations for the summer about data engineering. That's going to take us from a discovery process of what are we doing, right? What are the requirements, to design and architecture, to implementation, to data warehouse, data lakes, data warehouse architecture, data visualization. And we're going to touch on all those concepts based on this book. And we have a GitHub repo that has all the code for that. So stay tuned for that. And thank you for joining me. If you don't have any questions, guys, I really appreciate you being here with me, sharing with me. Again, I'll be sending the recording, the slides for this presentation, and just keep following the channel, the Google chapter, so we're able to share with you more information. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.